All right. I believe we are live. Let's double check. Double check. We are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of 20 Seconds of Courage. I'm Tracy Robin, as you all know, or don't, holistic health and life coach for women. And I am here today with my dear friend and colleague, Risa Gaull. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to her. She is a self-love and relationship coach, and we are going to talk all about how to get the love you want today. I kind of feel like love is in the air. It's, February is Valentine's Day month to me. So I always feel like it's the perfect time to talk about connection and love and relationship. So this is perfect timing, Risa. I'm so excited to have you here. For those of you that don't know much about 20 Seconds of Courage, I've been talking about it at nauseum. It is on my YouTube channel at The Entrepreneur. It's the feminine art of business. And that's at AUNT, Trepreneur, right? Like, because you all know I'm a Tia. And it started back in 2019 when I really just wanted to not overthink taking action and just hit record and talk to some amazing human beings and let you be a fly on the wall to real conversations. I'd always been afraid of asking questions, thought I was the only person that didn't have all the pages in the playbook. And I wanted to get over that. And so that's how this vodcast, if you will, was born. And so today I want to introduce you to my dear friend, Risa Gaull. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Tracy, everyone, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I'm so
Always happy,
excited.
happy to talk about love, self-love.
I know. I want to talk to you about this. This is so good. Like, I just, and also, y'all, stay on to the end. Risa has a really cool event coming up, I think next week, and she's going to tell us
Yeah.
all about it. I will put that information and the link to register in the show notes and in the comments, so you'll be able to grab yourself a spot. It is filling up fast, and I don't see why it wouldn't. Like, don't we all need to love ourselves a little more? So I want to talk to you a little bit about how you got into this work. Like, what made you decide you wanted to be a self-love and relationship coach?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, I spent my whole life trying to figure out how to freaking love myself. So,
Same here.
it's just really like I feel like that just really for decades. How do I like why can't I just like myself? Like how do I love myself? And I studied with a lot of the main, transformational experts. I learned a lot, and I finally got to be like 38 years old, and until I got married, I waited that long because I was aware. I was in and out of different relationships, and I was aware like how much I was just kind of looking for that validation from those boys, and all that stuff. And so I just realized like I don't want to derive my sense of worth from anybody else. And I was very aware of it. So I just kept doing, studying with different people and using different techniques and working on myself. And so finally, I'm 38 years old, and I'm with a man, and he seems to check off all the boxes. And I just figured, well, I guess I'm as ready as I'm gonna be. So I get married, and he was a very nice man. And about 7 years into our marriage, he relapsed into alcoholism and depression. And I didn't know anything about that. I was like, we're getting together. And I said, well, are you ever going to drink again? He's like, oh, I'm not planning on it. I'm like, okay. Lo and behold, that's not really how it works. So anyway, yeah. So it wasn't until that happened, when all that happened, like just my world just came crashing down. Because here I didn't realize how much I was still really depending on this person for my sense of security, my sort of that validation, that sense of who I am, that sense of identity. And so it was really a blessing in disguise. I'm actually grateful for it now, because that was sort of it took me to a deeper level of getting some more support, finding people who do the deeper transformational coaching, which now I do with other women. So that was really the beginning of my real journey back to myself, and finally getting the tools and the support I needed to really come home to myself. So it's been a beautiful journey, as painful as that was at the time. It was just that's it, right? Our another growth experience, our growth experiences.
Yeah, I
What did
know.
I say?
That's
Another freaking growth experience.
another
Thank
freaking growth experience. I know. Just like how many do we need? I really and truly believe life happens for us and not to us. And
you.
all the journey that we've been on, whether we liked it or not, taught us and grew us into who we are now. And we continue to grow into the person we're becoming. So thank you, first of all, for sharing that story so vulnerably and honestly. I think it's helpful for other women to hear other women's stories
Mm,
because it can feel very lonely, particularly around this subject of self-love. I would love to go a little deeper if you're open to it,
mm,
because I too struggled with self-validation and being the chameleon, classic codependency. If y'all don't know much about codependency, we can have a whole, Risa and I can book another time. We'll have a whole conversation for you about codependency, and we'll even open it up for you to join us in the Zoom room and you can ask us Q&A. Um, but I think it's really important when a woman has low self-esteem and is a chameleon trying to be all the things that everybody wants so that she'll be safe, happy, and loved and accepted and not
mm,
abandoned, and feeling like you have to bend into all sorts of shapes and sizes in order to be loved, instead of realizing that you are truly valuable just because you exist. Right.
mhm,
I talk a lot about that
mhm,
with my clients as well. I'm a health and business coach for women, and you and I have talked about this a bit too, but this concept of when we are like our sacred right to have what we need to survive and to be here and to exist starts in utero. Starts in utero. It's formulated in that place. So anything that comes into that area where we feel, you know, unsafe to be ourselves, it affects us for our whole life if we don't pay attention to it, right?
mhm.
So
Opportunity for growth.
another
Sometimes
opportunity.
it starts in utero,
Well,
but
that's where the programming comes. That's where the programming comes. That's
yeah.
more my work, but like
Mm,
that's where the programming comes, right? And I love how you shared. I think this is important for everybody who's watching or listening. I love that you shared that this whole journey started for you when you were 38, right? Like the relationship piece of you started when you were 38, and that you waited that long because you were working on your own self-love. I
mhm,
understood that
mhm,
correctly, right? Like
mhm,
learning to love yourself. And I think
mhm.
that's a really important point. Can you talk a little bit about why it's important, or why you felt it was important to focus on yourself before getting into relationship?
Yeah, I love that question. It just, first of all, it never works. Like when you go into a relationship needing that validation from people, like it's not attractive to people. It doesn't make for a foundation, like for a relationship to continue. So I had some like shorter term relationships, but that's it ultimately it didn't work out because I was doing that thing you were talking about. I was the chameleon. I was like, all right, well, I'll just, it took me years to kind of unwind that people pleasing, that pattern. It's like I was totally that person, like, oh, I'll just show up and, be whoever I say what I think you want to hear. And, people, it's not really substance for like, a real relationship. And so it doesn't go very far. So that's kind of a short answer, but yeah, it's just you can't, they say you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Well, that's true. That's true because your relationships are really just a reflection of your own relationship with yourself. So that's we all know that, right? We hear that. You got to
Not
love
everybody
yourself.
knows that, actually. Yeah, not everybody
Uh-uh.
realizes that. I think not everybody realizes that.
Uh-uh.
It's easy for
Yeah.
us, right? And I love that you just said that because I think that we swim in the water that we swim in. Fish don't see the water they swim in, right? So like
Mhm.
I think it's really interesting because I have the same issue where I think like, well, everybody probably knows this already. I'm just probably preaching to the choir. And a lot of people don't know this, right?
Mhm.
Not everybody does work around codependency, and it's sort of a word that people hear and they kind of get it. Like when I first heard the word codependent, I was like, I'm not codependent. I'm an independent young woman. And boy, was my mind blown. Boy, oh
Mhm.
boy, was my mind blown. So, um,
Yeah, I didn't even know what that word meant at the time. I was going through all that. I had friends tell me, like, Reese, you gotta get this book, Codependent. I'm like, codependent, what, It's like, oh, that's what
that
it
book
is.
changed my life. That book changed my
Mhm.
life. What what would you say to women who are currently in a relationship, um, and struggling in that relationship with a partner?
Mhm. Yeah, so those are my ladies, those are my women. That's who I work with. If you're unhappy in your relationship and you're maybe struggling with that question of whether to stay or go, that those are all the people that I work with. And so the first thing that I invite people to do, you're ready for this one? It's big, really
I'm
good
ready.
tip
Drum
here.
roll.
Dun, 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 dun. And it might seem counterintuitive, but we just got to get our focus off that other person. And this is the big mistake, is that if you're unhappy in your relationship, I see pretty much everybody doing is that we're trying to get that other person to change. Would you agree? It's like it seems logical, right? I see a
Yeah.
problem. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna, like, let's go to counseling, whatever. And not that counseling is bad, but when we're coming from that place where I am trying to make you be different, I'm trying to change that other person. First of all, doesn't work because we don't have control over other people, and people don't like that. No, it just creates more frustration and more resentment when we're trying to control people. So I know, because I did all that for years. And
They
so,
would change, then I would be happy. If only they would
right.
change, everything would be perfect, right? And I think that's such a great point that you make. I love that that's the first thing, because, in recovery, we say, if you're pointing a finger, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. So, it's a mirror. Our relationships, I think, are mirrors, would you say, to who we are? They give
Absolutely.
us an opportunity, as you said, another effing growth opportunity. But
Yeah,
it's a mirror
yeah.
into our own souls and into, I think that relationships are mirrors and can magnify the things that work in our lives and magnify the things that don't.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really so, there needs to be a willingness to just, first of all, like, am I willing to just take responsibility? Because we're responsible, and that word sometimes has a negative connotation, but I like to think of it as the ability to respond. So I always say, like, you might not like the situation you're in, but you can like yourself in it, and you can take care of yourself in it. So it's like we have to get our attention off that other person, take back our power. Like, I'm really about helping you get back into alignment with the truth of who you are, release any old patterns, limiting beliefs. But so that's the first step, is like, okay, I'm focused on this other person, everything they're not doing that, or, everything they're doing that's making me unhappy. I'm like trying to figure out how to get them to be different. And we're both really frustrated. The resentments are probably building up and up and up, sometimes for years. Now we've got all these walls and we can't even talk to each other anymore. Right. And so that's the first step, is like, oh, just for now, can we just stop and just set it down and just turn that focus back onto ourselves? And I just even, like, would invite you to, any time, just even put your hands on your heart. And really, we got to get out of our head. And I do a lot of, like, mind body techniques and stuff like that. But just even, like, putting your hands on your heart, if you want to even just try it right now, take a breath. They've actually done studies, but just putting your hands on your heart automatically calms your nervous system, stimulates your oxytocin. And so it just bringing our attention back to ourself, back to our body, back to our breath. And you can even just close your eyes or bring your attention within and drop your awareness. Let's just drop our awareness down into the chest, into the heart area. Just getting out of our head for a moment, bringing our awareness into the heart and just breathe into your heart as if you could breathe right in through the backs of your hands. And just feel into your heart, your beautiful heart. And releasing on the out breath. Just taking a few more beautiful breaths, just feeling into your heart. That's your place of truth, of peace, higher wisdom, connection with all it is. And just know that you do love yourself. That's our automatic, natural state, just like a little child. And maybe you want to just remind yourself right now, you can tell yourself, I love myself. And maybe that doesn't feel true, but we're just going to bypass any conditioned patterns of thinking. And maybe just like you would talk to a little child, you can just tell yourself, I love you. I love myself. And just give yourself a little appreciation for who you are as a beautiful human and all you do. And just knowing right here, right now, in this moment, all is well. I am safe. All is well. I love myself and I'm going to get it figured out. And then sometimes I just like to then imagine swallowing that love, that energy down and bringing the hands down to the lower stomach, your center, just below your belly button. And just imagine drinking that down like a warm drink of sunshine in your belly and just taking in all that good love, all that good healing. And just let it settle there. And we settle back into our center in the pelvic area. Help us be grounded in the comfortable with who we are. So we really, yeah, when you're ready, you can just bring your attention back and take another breath. And how was that? How's that feel? It's like so different, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just,
present
yeah.
and aware of my physical
Mhm.
body.
Yeah, because this is where from like a lot of us live from here to here, as you probably know. I know you do a lot of work around this too with the yoga, and I teach qigong, so like the mind body practices. But this is where the story lives. And I want to just say, we're talking about these codependent patterns, and can I just say, like, it's not our fault that we have these patterns. There's good reasons why we have these patterns. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh crap, and you're beating up on yourself, I'm like the three main patterns I talk about are people pleasing, which we talked a bit about, um, feeling like we have to be perfect. And I have all of these. I have all of these, like that perfectionism. I know we've talked about that too. And just feeling like overly responsible for other people. So I've done all of those. I have all of those tendencies. But so these patterns, as you may know, are really, they're just developed in childhood as survival mechanisms because we're, as little people, we're actually very smart and very resourceful and very intuitive, and we'll do what we're dependent on the adults and caregivers around us at that time. So these are winning strategies. I will do whatever I need to do to get myself taken care of here. I need you. So, we adapt and we kind of get conditioned out of our own alignment with ourselves. So, just to give yourself a little break and know, like, there's good reasons. Like, those are survival strategies. They were just unmet needs that we have as children. And this is not about blaming parents. Like, we all, do the best we can with what we have and what we've learned and what we've been given. But, um, I lost my train of thought. So, yeah, it's just knowing you're not your story. You're not your story, and there's good reasons why those patterns are there. And so, oh, unmet needs. Yeah, unmet needs. There's just unmet needs we had as kids. Holy crap. And now the good news is that as adults, we can this is some of the work that I do and that I know you I imagine you do too, is just reconnecting then with that inner child, that younger one that still lives within us. Maybe you all have had some exposure to that kind of work and maybe you haven't, but that's really like we just did with the heart, is if you would talk to a little child, you can talk to yourself that way. And we have these younger aspects that still live within us. And so it's about, now we can be that loving parent to ourselves, that we are the best parent that we could possibly. Nobody can love you like you do. And nobody can. Maybe higher power probably loves us better, but that's,
Yeah, I love what
that's
you said,
that.
Risa, about the unmet needs that we had as kids and what you said before about being response able, right? We're able to respond now as adults to those unmet needs so we can, in essence, reparent ourselves.
Mhm.
Um, One of the things I just recently heard that was it was so effing brilliant. And if y'all are taking notes, you'll like, I know like Risa's dropping like major bombs of wisdom here. So I hope you're taking notes. Um, Feel free to comment in there, and Risa and I will check below any comments or questions you might have. We'll keep an eye out on the thread. But one of the things I heard was the idea is response. Are you responding or are you reacting? And many of us in relationships react. I think I'm pretty safe to say that. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Or a
Abs-
reactive mode. And so what I heard was that when you react, you're actually reenacting.
mm,
Was so, I'm getting goosebumps all over. So smart. Reaction. If you are reacting to a situation, you're actually reacting to something that happened in the past. Whether it is conscious or not, it is reacting to something that's already happened,
mhm,
not the situation at hand, but it's like it's playing over and over again. In the phrase of if it's hysterical, it's historical, that kind of piece of like, that's where we react. Whereas if you take the pause like you did, like if you check in with yourself, your inner child, if you take a moment to stop feeling so angry and resentful just for a moment, right? That pause gives you the opportunity to go, what am I feeling? Right? Like,
mhm,
what do I need? That's one of the things what am I feeling? What do I need? What am I feeling? What do I need?
mhm,
Those are two of my favorite questions. What do I
mhm,
feel right now? What do I need? And sometimes it's a walk around the block. Sometimes it's a glass of water. Sometimes it's a bath. Sometimes it's sleep. Sometimes it's I need to be heard. Sometimes it's I need a big giant cry. Sometimes it's I need to scream into a pillow, whatever it is. But I love how you said that, I mean, raise your hand or put in the comments like people pleasing, perfectionism, anybody, right? Overly responsible. I could tick
mhm,
all of those boxes. Thinking that other adults are incapable of taking care of themselves is such a huge, monstrous, codependent characteristic that will stop you from living your own life, right?
mhm. Yeah.
So I love your work. I
So
mean,
good.
I've been on my own journey with my own codependency. So like for many, many years and recovering. And it's so good to hear it. And I'm so grateful, y'all. You should be really blessed that this woman is doing this work because this is work that will change everything else in your life, not just your relationships. But let's
Mhm,
talk about relationships for a second, because I think
mhm,
that one of the things about the work that you do, I love that you have an event coming up called, hold please, I know what it's called. It's called Three Keys to Get the Clarity You Need and the Love You Want. And
mhm,
I love that you call yourself a self-love and relationship coach, because I think they're one and the same. We can't really give from an empty cup. And relationships are about giving. How do you let's talk about that for a second.
mhm.
What's your take on giving versus getting in a relationship?
I love that question, Tracy, because I feel like that's kind of a litmus test. I know for me, it's like, it's a question you can ask yourself. Am I approaching this relationship from a place of what do I need to get from you in order for me to be okay, to feel happy, to be good? that's not your job to do that for me. That's my job first. We know, right? Happiness, inside job. So yeah, we've got it. That's our responsibility. I'm in charge of me and how I feel. And if I'm looking to you to fill some void in me or that validation, then I'm automatically setting myself up for a disappointment because nobody can do that for you, or at least 100% of the time. So if I ask myself, if I'm doing my own work, if I'm, learning how to feel whole and complete in myself, and for sorry, one sip.
Yeah, take some water. I'll take some water too. Water.
Um, I know for me, like having my spirituality, a relationship with some sense of a higher power, whatever your understanding is about that, I feel like that's really an essential piece of it. And I know we don't talk about that a lot because, and I have shied away from talking about spirituality because just everybody has such different beliefs and understandings. But whatever your understanding is fine. Whatever makes sense for you. But for me, I just like to quote, Pedram. I forget how I'm gonna probably butcher his name.
Hema,
Pedram Chopra.
Hema, Hema Chodron.
No, Pedram Chopra, I think it is. He's known as the urban monk,
Okay.
and he's written a ton of books. And he talks about if are you being a vertical feeder or are you being a horizontal feeder? And so when we don't have that sort of connection with something greater than ourselves, where we can feel like we're being held in the arms of a loving universe, that we're secure, we're safe, our needs are going to be met, then we're always going to be kind of codependent. Like, so it's sort of I take sort of a broader vision of it. It's like, then we're always looking for that security from other humans. And of course, yeah, we're humans. We need each other. We're looking for a healthy interdependence. So I feel like that is our primary relationship. It's ourselves, but who are you really? It's like you're a spirit having a human experience. Wayne Dyer would say you're not a human having a spiritual experience. You're a spirit having a human experience. So, just for me, having that kind of spiritual connection is really, like, if you think about, like, we want to come from a place of being able to give. That's the question. Am I giving, or am I coming into it from a place of needing to get from you, or what do I have to give? Well, where does that come from? Yeah, it comes from all the self-care and all that kind of stuff, but I think it comes from a higher place. Like, what is really unconditional love? Like, what is you are I feel like, you are love. Like, that's our natural essence of who we are as spirits in a human body. And so if we can bring our highest, best selves first, we have to do that work for ourselves so that we're not living in this story of not enough, or all the patterns, all the codependent patterns, so that when we can feel like, I love myself, I feel whole, I'm complete, I trust my higher power, so then I can come from a place of real, true unconditional love. What do I have to offer? What do I have to give to you? And not be needing that validation or that security. And, that's kind of like the ideal. Of course, I'm never completely like feeling that way, but that's been my experience. And that's kind of how I look at, that's my model
Yeah.
for health relationship. It's, two whole people coming together, not like two halves make a whole. A lot of it's cultural too. Like, we're really taught this, like, call it normalized codependency. So not two wholes coming together. Where you overlap, that's your relationship. Communication is the bridge between you, but all around this, surrounding all of you, is this divine source. And I always like tell people, your partner's not your source.
Yeah. Oh, oh,
Source is your source. Yeah.
but and we're inundated with those messages. When you were talking, I just like, the phrase from Jerry Maguire, you complete me. Oh, I mean, these are the messages we get in media all the time, is that it's the romantic, like, damsel in distress, needs the knight to rescue her, and these types of mentalities, these messages that we're taught. destroy relationships, destroy our self-worth. And then we have to go and undo that messaging.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So it's such an interesting thing. Oh my God, this conversation is so rich and delicious. I want to keep talking to you. Okay, let me ask you a question then. How do you know? How would a woman know if it's possible for her relationship to improve?
Mm.
Like, what are the signs
Yeah,
of, yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you're
that's
talking about should you stay or should you go? How do you
right.
know when there's like, is there like a red flag that you've seen consistently that you're like, get the hell out, or you can make this
Yeah.
work?
Yes, thank you. That's the $64,000 question that everybody who comes to work with me is asking. How do I know for sure? Or, but maybe it is different if you're in a really toxic kind of relationship, if there's any kind of domestic violence, of course, if there's anything that is either making you feel physically unsafe or even emotionally unsafe, then that's a different conversation. But for the majority of people that I work with, it's I have what I call my relationship clarity process that I've identified to, and how it looks like it really is about us just getting into alignment with ourselves, doing all the stuff that we're talking about, is getting the support, because I don't know anybody who can just do it on their own. It's like we need some support, we need some tools. Like, how do we really release the patterns, these
Yeah.
kind of codependent patterns or whatever your patterns are, that are really at the root? That's what's at the root of the challenges you're having. So unless we don't, if we till we do that work for ourselves and clean up those patterns, how are we going to know?
Right. Our
How are
best
we going
thinking
to
got us
know?
to the situation that we're in. How is
I
that
show up, right? I do
right?
my work. I start to show up differently. I'm now more in alignment with myself. I feel more whole. I feel more in love with myself. I'm not coming at you from that place of need. And I've learned how to, I know for me too, and a lot of the women I work with, is just like, how do we then be an advocate for ourselves and really be in our power and be able to speak and ask for what we need from a assertive, neutral place, not from just having the tools we need to process all our feelings, and so that we can come from a really constructive place and maybe up level our communication skills. Most of us don't have we're not taught how to really communicate constructively. So that's kind of it. It's like we do our own inner work. We start to show up differently first for ourselves, and then that actually, I was like, we don't have the power to control other people, but you have a tremendous amount of power to influence the dynamics that are happening in your relationship. Call it the power of one. And so by us doing our own inner work, we start to show up in our power, in our love, as the best version of ourselves, up level our communication skills. And then it becomes like an experiment. It's like, okay, here we are. It's like a dance, right? And maybe not so fun right now. So I start to show up differently. And now I see, oh, is he leaning in? Is he leaning out? Can he dance with me now in this way? And so that's in a nutshell the relationship clarity process.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that you get to be happy no matter what happens. It's like you get in such good alignment with yourself that then it becomes clear. Like, clarity emerges as a natural outcome of you getting into alignment with yourself.
Mhm. I love
Boom.
that's a
Mhm.
mic drop moment. Clarity
Mhm.
comes from getting alignment into your with yourself, right?
Mhm.
I did
Yeah,
not quote you
it's a
exactly. I
natural,
apologize.
yeah, it's a natural outcome. We think, oh, I might need clear. Well, it's a natural outcome. You get clear within yourself. You get in alignment with who you are. You start showing up as the woman you want to be for yourself. And inside your relationship, you up level your communication skills. And then you can see really clearly, wow. Like, I've had one client who, after doing this work, she just saw like, wow, it's kind of a toxic relationship. It's really one-sided, because she was always just kind of tiptoeing around, feeling like walking on eggshells, like trying to accommodate his needs all the time. We started doing this work together. She started showing up advocating for her own needs, and it didn't go so well. He didn't, because he wasn't willing to clean up his side of the street. He wasn't willing to look at his own stuff. So that was a deal breaker for that. But you know what? If both people are really willing, both people have a genuine desire, they've actually done research on this too. But if both people if there's some desire, and the term they use is actually fondness, which I think is a pretty low bar. But like if both people have,
I'm kind of fond of you.
I'm kind of fond of you. All right, let's try and work it out. I don't know. But it's like if both people still have some desire to want to see if it's possible to improve things and you're willing to take responsibility for yourselves and get the support you need to do your own inner work. Like that's why couples counseling doesn't work a lot of the times, because it's more like they're refereeing, they're looking at the dynamics that are happening between the two people, but it's not helping you change how you're really showing up, what's happening within you. So that's the power of this, doing your own inner work. First, the power of one. So yeah, so if there's still some desire, a lot of times people, I know this is a really long answer to your question, but we're still answering the question of like, how do you know if it's possible for things to improve, right? And so the research also shows that like the two things that people are most unhappy with are either the level of emotional intimacy, the connection, or communication. And so those two things are actually skills that we can learn that most of us are never taught, like just how to maintain a loving, intimate connection with someone over a period of years. And like we were saying, how to really communicate constructively. So like those are skills that can be learned. But overall, it really is, it really is about really just getting into alignment with yourself and your truth. And I kind of feel like people know. I feel like deep in your heart somewhere. Maybe it's way too scary to admit or even look at, and I totally get it. But that's a lot of the work that I support women too, is just even just you can ask yourself, this is a really good clarifying question you can ask yourself too, is, and I used this a lot, was like, what's my motivation? Because I struggled for a long time. I stayed with him for 7 years after he relapsed, and I did everything humanly possible. And we were getting to the point where it was becoming obvious that it wasn't going to get better, and it wasn't working for me, and it wasn't working for him. But yet I was hanging on. And so I would ask myself, what's my motivation for wanting to stay? And usually it's just fear, or out of obligation, or out of guilt. And so that's some criteria for good decision making, is that you don't want your decision to be based on, I call it a fog. um,
Yeah.
FOG, that was actually from someone else, but FOG, not fear, obligation, or guilt, right? And so or out of an emotional reaction, says we're getting the support we need to process, what is it in me that's getting triggered, releasing these old patterns. We call it, like you were saying, I call it triggers as treasures. It's like if I'm getting really triggered by, emotionally upset by something you're doing, it's like it's an old wound. And so that's my job, to go back and clean that up. And we gotta, if we don't repair it, we're going to repeat it. So that's a mistake a lot of women make. Well, I'm just gonna get out of Dodge, but I don't do my work and I don't clean up my patterns. And that's why divorce statistics for repeat marriages are so high, because people, we take ourselves with us where we go. So it's like, you gotta take the opportunity. If you're not happy in your relationship right now, God bless you, because you have a growth opportunity. I know you probably want to smack me for saying that right now, but
I know.
it's this is the opportunity that we have before us. It's like, wow, and shifting that mindset, like you were saying, this is not happening to me, and feeling like a victim, which I know it's easy to do, but what this is happening for me. What is my opportunity for me to learn and grow from? That's what I did through my whole experience in my marriage. It's like, wow, let's, you gotta, you can glean. It's like, let's not move on until we glean the growth opportunity that's here. Otherwise, it's just you're gonna get another opportunity. I promise you.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant lesson for people to hear too. Everything you're saying is just gold, 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 gold. And the thing that you just pointed out, this idea that if you don't heal it, it's just going to keep showing up. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of times women will think, I'm going to leave this relationship, and then they get into another relationship. It's the same exact relationship with different faces.
Mhm.
And if we don't heal that, then you just keep repeating the same old mistakes,
Mhm.
patterns, habits. your life just becomes Groundhog's Day with a different person. And I
Yeah.
think that that's really, really important to note. And one of the things you said is like, we can't do it alone. Our best thinking gets us into these fixes. Our best thinking gets us into these fixes. And as much as there's lots of literature out there and stuff, but if you're not there with someone who can guide and see and sort of take an external bird's eye view with you, it's
Mhm.
really hard to navigate by yourself. I think that's why that's why I went into coaching. And that's, I'm sure, similar for you, is like you saw it work in your life and you're like, I can help other people. And
Mhm.
that's the brilliance of, as coaches, what we get to do is really help other people not have to try and navigate it on their own. I certainly didn't navigate it on my own. I tried.
Mhm.
Oh, and I tried so hard to navigate it on my own. I'm a strong woman. But there are things that there is some healing that cannot be done alone. And I have
Mhm.
learned that through my work as a yoga teacher, as a coach, as a codependent. There is some work that cannot be done alone. It's
Mhm.
not possible. We need to be part of the problem, I think, um, is that we want to be witnessed. And like you said, we're looking to be our source, to be our partner. And that's never going to work.
Mhm.
That will
Mhm.
never going to work because your partner is a human being having a human being, a spiritual being having a human experience, just like you, right?
Yeah, and they're just doing the best they can to try and make themselves happy, never mind being responsible for you.
And then you bring like a basket of old junk against another basket of old junk, and then you try to pour them all in together, and it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, you need help. We need help navigating these things.
Yeah.
Um, your clients are very lucky to be able to work with you. I'm super excited about your upcoming events. And I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but God, there's so much I want to talk to you about. We may have to do a part two.
Or two.
Oh my God, this is so delicious and rich. So, should I go? How to get the clarity? Can you talk a little bit about your upcoming 3-day events?
Yes, I
To
would
get the
love to.
clarity you need and the love you want. It's coming up the 13th through the 15th, right?
Yeah,
If
next
you're
week.
watching this or listening to this, we're in 2024. It's February. Today is February 6th,
Mhm.
2024. So, can you tell us a little bit about next week's event?
Absolutely. So it's the three keys to get the clarity you need and the love you want. It's for women, if you're unhappy and you're maybe struggling with that question of whether to stay or go, it's going to be 3 days, just an hour a day, and it's going to be a really powerful transformational experience because we're going to talk about a deeper dive, basically, on everything that we're talking about. Is like how do we then get our focus off that other person and bring our attention back to ourselves, and what does it really take to release these patterns that are at the root of our challenges? And we're going to just kind of help you uncover, like, for yourself, what are some of the patterns that are showing up for you, and how do we really release those, and a little deeper dive into the relationship clarity process as well. So yeah, we're gonna look at how do we really create the healthy, authentic, loving relationship we want, and how do we really get to that place of real clarity, so that you can also be happy no matter what you decide, and move ahead confidently, and as loving a way that serves everybody's highest and best. So, whether you're trying to see if it's possible for your relationship to improve, or you really don't think it's going to, but you're feeling stuck, this is for everybody. And it really is about ourselves first, and how do we come home to ourselves, and how do we get in that good loving relationship with ourselves. So it's going to be really powerful. I'm really excited to be able to offer this again. And if you're watching this after it's already over, we'll also drop a link in for you for some other resources that we have available if you want to get some support.
How long is it each day?
Yeah, so it's just an hour a day. It's from 12 to 1 Eastern time. We're gonna I'll invite you to stay on. We're gonna be on Zoom, so I'll invite you to stay on if you want to stay on for some private time afterwards for this question and answers. It's all completely confidential. So yeah, so I'll be on the recording, but then we'll be interacting through the chat. So it's all confidential. And then I invite people to stay. We can all talk amongst ourselves after and receive some free coaching and get some support. So just, yeah,
Awesome.
people have found it to be just really eye-opening and give you the foundation that you need to be able to just know that you just don't have to keep struggling in your relationship. It's totally not necessary. It's like that's the mistake most women make is they think they can just kind of figure it out on their own, but they just get caught up in fear and indecision, or they don't have the tools they need to be able to see if it's possible for things to improve. And so I just really want to encourage you if to know like you really don't have to keep struggling. It's not necessary. So come get the tools you need to just get on the path to finding the clarity you need and the love you want.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Yeah, you don't have to tolerate it, right? We get what we tolerate. And here's an opportunity for you to get some clarity, to get some insight, to get some self-awareness and another perspective of what could be possible for you to find love within yourself so that then it can show up outside of you. I think this is such beautiful work that you do, Risa. What a gift. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and talking to me and sharing your wisdom. And I'm so excited that you were here. And I'm so excited for anybody that's going to partake in your upcoming workshop. We will post all the links um, in the comments below. And yeah, what do we want to say? How do we want to close? Like, is there like a number one? Okay, so we talked about first focusing in on yourself, right?
Mhm.
What's like, what's one hot, juicy, like tip that you can give to women who might get off this video and go, it's possible for other people, but it's not possible for me. Or um yeah, like if they're really excited about it, but then they're just like, well, maybe I'll wait. Maybe I'll figure it out my own. Like what's like a hot tip that you would say or advice that you might give
I love that
so that they don't
question.
turn away from
Yeah.
what is possible?
Yeah. I would just say, like, honor how you feel, like your questions that you ask. What do I feel? And if you're unhappy, if you're feeling discontent, I actually see that as a good thing. But we need to pay attention because that tells me that there's something that needs to change. And we all need support. And if you knew what to do, you would have done it by now. So click the damn link and come on
Amen,
over.
sister. Amen. If we knew what to do, we would have done it already. This is what
Right. So
we talked
just
about.
pay attention to how you feel. Like just honor how you feel and don't be afraid to get support. I know, like maybe it's scary. Like I don't want to see. I don't want to
Scary to
know
ask
that
for help.
this isn't going to work out. Like there's so much fear. Like the mind will trick you into like just like it just wants to keep you safe. But I really like just really honor your emotional, that's your guidance system, honor your heart. And if you're not happy, there's support available. You just don't need to struggle. So I love you. I hope that you'll take advantage of this opportunity.
Yes, it's because you know what? It's because that was
Oh, I love the
beautiful.
heart.
Good. I got like shooting hearts. Let's see. Let's yeah, shooting hearts. All
Figure
right.
out how to make mine do that.
It's a setting. I'll show you later. Um,
Okay.
so I'm just so grateful for our friendship and for you being on this call with me today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming here to share all your wisdom. Um,
Mm,
and there was something that you said, not being afraid. There was something that you said, and I just wanted to say one more thing about it. You said, don't be afraid to ask for help.
mm,
Don't be afraid to ask for help. I think it's
Mhm.
important for women to know that. We can feel
Mhm.
really ashamed. We can
Mhm.
feel really scared. Fear and shame will bubble up inevitably when we're doing something scary that is could change things, right? Because the devil you know is always more comfortable than the devil you don't. And something you said, which was the pain is and this is such pain is an indicator. Discomfort, dis-ease is an indicator. I always talk to my clients like weight is a symptom. Weight gain is a symptom. It's not a life sentence. Like that's one of the things that I said, but it's a symptom. And so this idea, these pains are indicators, right? Our bodies are recording devices and that it's like an indicator panel. So what we're feeling, pay attention to it, right? Trust yourself. Thank you so much, Risa. Thank you, thank
Mhm.
you, thank you. Check out the link below for Risa's upcoming workshop. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, whatever platform you're on. This has been 20 Seconds of Courage, and I'm Tracy Robin. We'll see you next time.